with Intention, a podcast where we bring you stories from around the globe. Hello and welcome back once again to Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. And today we have Natasha back with us. Hello, dear. How are you today?
Hi, Ava. So nice to be back with you. I'm doing great, thank you. I'm alive, so I'm grateful for that.
Yay! So happy to have you back. If you missed the other episodes, I we welcome you to go back and watch the other episodes. But today we're gonna focus on changing career lanes and finding joy at any age. So, but before that, Natasha is just gonna share us a little bit about herself and what she does, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you for the floor, Ava. So I am a intuitive healer. I spirit medium, ghostbuster, past life regressionist, quantum healer, you name it, I do it. Anything that empowers people and to help them realize, their gifts, their talents, and kind of reconnecting with the joy in their soul. So whatever that takes. I'm also an author of 5 books. My favorite book, I think, for readers is I think I'm psychic and you can be too. And I tell my stories of my train wrecks of my life and how I came to choose what I came to choose and how I was guided. And then another one, when I did change lanes, years ago, I became a flight attendant. So I've got 2 books about that called Flight of Your Life and The Longest Flight of Your Life. And I love those two because they were fun to write. And it's all about humanity and how we're all imperfect, but so lovable and quirky. And I traveled a lot, of course, met a lot of different people. And so it became very, very life-changing for me, gave me a lot of confidence. And then the psychic journey started after that. So I have changed lanes a few times, so I know of what I speak.
Awesome. Well, that's wonderful. And the stories from flying, they're hilarious and lots to learn from too. So I encourage you to look into those. And of course, the links will be posted. But now let's get into our episode today. So in the past, we know that people often choose one career for life. I know my dad was one of those people too. But today, it's common to actually explore multiple paths. Have you had several careers? So you have yourself. And what led you to make the changes mainly? Was it
I think
something
this is a really
specific?
interesting. Sorry.
Go ahead. Was
Um,
it something specific? Let's
oh,
dive into
okay.
it closer.
Okay, so I think this is a really interesting question because I used to look at people and go, how did they end up doing that? Right? That was always a big question for me. But I started out training as I was going to be a nurse originally. Then I realized I had an aversion to blood and guts, so it's like I won't be a very good nurse. So I opted to study just to be a secretary, just to actually fill in a year. Then I was going to go traveling and then become a nurse, but that changed. So I became a secretary, and I had a fabulous job for a while with actually with BMW. And then I went to London, I went traveling, went to London, and I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I didn't want to be a secretary. And I remember sitting on this park bench in Richmond in London thinking, well, what do I want? Well, I want to deal with people. I want to be out doing things. I want excitement. I love travel. I found that I love language too. I love studying languages. And this career change of becoming a flight attendant actually found me. And the lady at where I was working as a temporary secretary, she saw an ad in the paper for a flight attendant. And she said, Natasha, you'd be great at that. Why don't you apply? And I went, oh, I'm not good enough for that. You have to be gorgeous and tall and this kind of thing. Anyway, she literally nagged me. She said, apply for it, apply for it. And I went, oh, okay. So I actually sent the airline this horrible, those photos you get in those photo booths? And my hair was all squished. It was horrible. And I was so shocked when I actually got the interview. Once I did the interview, I was thrilled. I was in love with it. I got hired to my absolute amazement. And so I flew for 8 years and loved every minute of it. I did have moments where I didn't want to fly, but when they called you out at 11 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning. But for the most part, it was just very thrilling, and I felt so blessed that they were actually paying me to do this job. because it was so much fun. And the camaraderie between the other women, which was mainly the deal back then, now there are a lot more stewards, but the women were fantastic, and I always had great respect for them as well. So it was very life affirming. It gave me confidence, gave me experience, of course. So that was number two career. And then when I came to Canada, um, I had to be a nanny for a while to get into the country. And then I would still didn't know, I didn't want to go back to flying. I think I felt done with that. And so career number three, four, five, six, I worked for a travel agent as a corporate salesperson, and I ended up working as an assistant, an executive assistant in the movie business.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, and then by then I was starting to really develop. I'd always had an interest in metaphysics, and I started to read more people, and that was becoming more prevalent. So I think that was kind of the journey into that. But there's a lot more stories in between those career changes, which
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into later.
Yeah, but I love how you said, like, sometimes we hear these things, oh, you got the nudge from the universe to go do this or do that. And that's exactly, it seems like what you had, your friend telling you, go apply, go apply. And it's happened on me a couple of times too. And, they actually ended up being some of the jobs I enjoy the most. When those little nudges come and you get that job and it's either teaches you something or you learn something new or you really fall in love with that thing. And, yeah, so I love those experiences because you're asking for something and you think it's gonna come from one way, but it comes
Yes.
completely from a different way, and that's exactly what was meant for you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to not tell people, but I'm sure people feel this already. But before we are born, we sign a contract for our life story. So we all have a movie, and we're the star in the movie, and we've brought in the characters and the challenges and the gifts. And some people will say, "Oh, I'm not good enough and I can't do that." And I felt that about my writing. And I was 49, and this is a cute story too. I was driving down the road and I had a, a file, a drawer, filing cabinet, sorry, thank you, filing cabinet drawer full of writings I'd done since I was a child. And I just written journals or ideas for stories. And I'm driving down the road, it's early morning, and I think, God, I have to get serious about my writing because this was a hunger within me. And my sister told me when I was maybe 9, oh, you can't write. So that had got into my head. I can't write, but that's all actually at that time I really wanted to do. It's apart from doing my metaphysical work, writing was my other passion. So I'm driving along the road and I get this instinct to pull into a friend of mine. Her name was Stella. She was an astrologer actually. And I said, oh, go and have a coffee with Stella. Pulled in. I'm sitting there saying, I really need some help with my writing. And she said, well, call Dragon Lady. I said, who's Dragon Lady? She said, she's a very well known lady on the coast. Her name is Betty Keller. She's written like 19 books and she helps writers. So I went home, called Betty. Betty said, "Send me your writing." And this was on the Friday. She said, "I'll let you know if I can take you into my class if you're a writer." So of course I faxed off my story and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, what if she tells me I'm horrible at writing?" And I made the decision then. I said, if she tells me I'm horrible, I'll just learn until I become a great writer. I'll just keep learning. Because the truth is, if we want to do something, we may really suck at it in the beginning or think we do, or just not be naturally talented. But if the will and the desire is there, if you can read, you can learn it, right? So that's what I did. And thankfully, Betty took me on, and I was with her and still am actually for 25 years, more than 25
Wow.
years. And I said, Betty, you've been longer with me than my husband. But
That's
she's
an
birthed
amazing
me
story.
in all my 5 books, and all of us feel so blessed to have her because without her guidance, my books would have been 800 pages of drivel. But she really made us kind of get very succinct and to the point. And now people say I'm a great writer, and I went, that's music to my ears. Thank you.
Oh,
So family and friends don't always know the truth about how good you are at something. So only listen to your inner urgings, inner guidance, And if it's what you want to do and if it's important to you, follow that urge because that's your soul wanting to express through you.
Yeah.
And if you have a desire, that means you're meant to have the manifestation of that desire. I like to say it's God speaking through you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, I
Trust that.
remember when I wrote my first collaboration book. By all means, I wasn't perfect, but it didn't stop me. I mean, at the beginning, when now I look back, I'm like, oh, geez, who wrote that? But then, when you do the second one and the third one, you just get better. And if it's
Yes,
something that you like and enjoy doing, you always can take it to the next level. There's always something
exactly.
to learn and advance. Like some of it I'm like, if I'm not sure how to use certain sentence or whatever, then I'm like, put it in ChatGPT. I say, can you give me some suggestions? And that's how you learn. That's how you get
Yes,
better. If
yes.
and if you're not sure what to write, then you have a friend who's like, hey, well, have you thought about this? Because if you're really passionate about something, I believe you will find a way.
You will
Will find
because it's
you.
the will.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
so
is the will.
I love that you went with it. And it's funny because sometimes we hear that, oh, you're not good enough or that, and that's sometimes for people, they take that to heart and then they never do anything. And then some people it's like, oh yeah, I'll prove you wrong. And then you go the other way. So the choice is
Exactly.
always yours, which way you take it. And I hope whoever's listening it that if you have, like you said, a deep desire to do something, follow your heart. It's there for a reason. Explore it, see
Yes,
where it takes you, master it.
yes,
Like you have
exactly.
writing, right? So I think it's really
Exactly.
important to follow your heart.
Because it makes you a better person as well. It makes you happier. As you know, Ava, I believe that happiness can prevent disease, because disease is dis-ease of the spirit. And if you don't, you're not in that frequency of joy and happiness and expressing, just having fun and exploring something, and you're constantly putting yourself down. I found that if I don't write, if I don't have a writing project on the go, I get miserable. So that's interesting. And I
Yeah.
go, why am I miserable? It's like, oh, I need a new writing project.
Yeah.
So I just continue to do that because I can talk a lot, as you know.
Yeah.
So writing gives me an outlet as well.
That's amazing. But I'm gonna ask you that difficult question. So, looking back, have you ever regretted any career decision you made?
I'm going to say I probably regretted not doing something. So we were talking about the not good enough thing.
Yeah.
And I've often, I'm writing a screenplay now. I'm nearly done with it. I'm very excited about it. That was always my kind of original thought that I would become a screenwriter. And I think I had the opportunity on several occasions where could have been discovered, when I was actually working as the executive assistant in the TV business. And I was doing a workshop because there was hiatus at the studio, and I begged my boss. There was a screenplay course going on, led by John Truby, who's very well respected in Hollywood. And I said, please, can I do the course? He said, oh, you want to become weird like all those other people? I went, sure.
Wow.
And so I did the course, and during the course, this lady came up to me. She said, I'm an agent. Here's my card. I could really make you very famous. And I've had about 4 or 5 opportunities, and I've gone like, me? I don't think so. And I've kind of not even entertained it. And I think back on that now, and I think, what were you thinking, Natasha? You should have just explored it, and just taken it to where, because you could be a lot further ahead in the screenwriting department now. But I will say, I think life goes the way it's meant to. And there was a reason at the time I said no to it. Uh, I don't think it was fear. It could have been fear. I think it was I didn't feel good enough. Maybe I wasn't ready. But what did happen was this massive psychic gift started pouring through me. And I've been able to help thousands and thousands of people, not just through the readings, but the books and the ghost busting and all the other things I do. So, what's more rewarding in the end? And I've still got time to become an actress and a screenwriter
There
if
you
I so
go.
choose.
Exactly, right? There's no limit.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I just always say to people, just explore every avenue, just in case.
exactly. But of course there are people who, get stuck. Maybe they're they're unhappy in what they do, the role. For those who do actually feel stuck and are unhappy, and they just don't like what they're doing, like right now, where should they begin if they want to make a meaningful change? What would you suggest?
Well, I'm big into manifestation. So, like I did before I got that flying interview, I would sit and imagine because I couldn't put a name to it. I didn't know what it was called that would make me happy, but I imagined like being excited about what I was doing. It would feel right. I listed the elements of what I loved. So I often suggest to my clients get a big piece of paper, get on the floor and just write down everything you love doing, whether you're good at it or not, that doesn't matter. Just what, I love supporting people. I love cooking. I love going for a walk. I love skiing. Whatever it is, write down those, like, take it up to 100 if you can. I got stuck at around 60, but then, oh yeah, I love this. And then I got all those things down. Then I picked out the first 10 things that were at the top of the list. And then I got it down to five. And then I got it kind of down to three. And it's like, okay, what would a job look like where I was incorporating these three things that I love to do? So some people might be skiing the mountains, walking, the ski instructor, right? Teaching. So, it'll kind of, that is a good way to kind of get clarity for yourself. There's a really good book called Wishcraft, not Witchcraft, Wishcraft. And it's by Barbara Kerr. It's written, gosh, back in the early 80s, I think. And she gives you several exercises to do. What did you love doing when you were a child? Well, I love getting dressed up in, my some theatrical clothes and just, so obviously I love being on screen and talking and being a goofball. And, I love riding horses, I love being outdoors. So all these things are very important. You're getting kind of in touch with the essence of you. So when you've got those things that you like, start writing down possible careers where you could do that. Now, this is a really interesting point, Ava. What I did, I wrote down hotels, TV, anything that was slightly glamorous, PR, production, kind of this kind of thing. And instead of sending resumes out, I would never suggest that. I thought, well, which employer would I like to work for? So I picked a large hotel in downtown Vancouver. And then I found the name of the person that did the PR in that hotel. And I called them up and I said, I'm going through a career change right now. And I understand you do a wonderful job at being a PR person at the hotel. Could I possibly take you for a coffee and or lunch if you're feeling brave enough to ask you about your job and how you do it and whether it might be a good fit for me? So most people are very flattered when you ask them. And she said, sure. And I did this with about 9 or 10 different jobs and different employers.
Oh, wow.
And out of that nine, I think I was offered about 6 jobs. Not at the time they said, oh, we'll take your resume and we'll keep you in mind for when a vacancy comes up. Sometimes it was right on the job. But it was great because I decided I didn't want to do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I wanted to be self-employed. And so I saved myself a lot of going through different job experiences to find out that I didn't want to do that thing, but this is actually what I really did want. So, and it's much more empowering when you're going and doing the interviewing because you ask them things like, well, what do you love about your job? What do you hate about your job? What's the pay rates? What's the advance opportunity? What are the opportunities for advancement? All those kind of things. So you're in the driver's seat, which I really enjoyed, and you have your resume handy, and you go, I'd be a brilliant PR person in the hotel business, whatever, and you hand it over. And so you're coming from a place of empowerment. And I think those people respected the initiative that I took, and they thought, we want somebody like her on our team. So it's very empowering to do that, and you can just explore lots of different avenues that way.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I've heard people talk about that, but I've never actually met somebody who actually goes and does the interviews like that. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've done a lot of jobs too before, and it's funny because people look and say, how many jobs have you had? I was like, yeah, but before it would bug me because I was like, oh wow, I did have quite a few jobs. But then I looked at, why and how, and sometimes I was traveling, sometimes I was finishing school, and I had to shift to a different schedule. So there was always a reason. But now I look at them and it's like, look at the experience I have gained. And not only
Exactly.
that, now I say, I know exactly what I like, what I don't like in the job. So why would I waste my time going here again if I already know it's not something I want to do? And unlike same as you, I also, know that I would rather work for myself than do XYZ. So you get clarity, you know which way you want to go, you know how you want to help people and things like that. So I think it's really important not only do what you said, sit down and write it out, but then also do couple test runs out there, um, and see where it guides you, right? So
Yeah, and there's another thing you brought up there that we both relate to as being self-employed. And I think sometimes everybody has a work style. So I did a survey once where it said, do you like to work in a team? Do you like work by yourself? Do you like to work for somebody? Do you like to be directed? Do you have lots of initiative? And of course, we're both self-directed because we're both self-employed and entrepreneurial. And I go, well, I really like to work by myself, but I'd like to have people that I can kind of bounce off of. So I have that situation. I have what I call consultants that support me. And, what kind of environment do you want to work in? Do you want to work in an office? Do you want to be outside? So it's not just what you're doing, but where you're doing it and who with. And we know in the corporate world now there's a lot of toxic atmospheres going on. I really would love to do some work with corporations, teaching them really happy workplaces and how to have the mindset for that. Um, so it's very important that you're choosing the right scenario as well as the right task that you want to bring out. The other
mhm,
thing I want to say is that when clients come to me for readings, and they'll come with their sister or the mother or the friend, and I'll say to my client, "Oh, you're such a good organizer," and the client will go, "Oh, no, I'm not," and the friend or the mother will say, "Yes, you are." And sometimes we don't know what our own talents are, so I would kind of do some. This isn't for the ego. It's just to find out how people actually see you. Like my friend who pushed me into becoming a flight attendant, she saw that in me. It was perfect for me. It was absolutely perfect.
mhm,
So ask your friends who really love you and your colleagues maybe or your family and just say, you know, what talents do you see me having? What do you think I'd be good at? And write them down and look for something that incorporates those talents as well, because you might be quite surprised at what people say about you. I
yeah,
know I have been in the past. So it's a good reflection.
mhm,
And we're often very modest, or we don't believe in ourselves, or we feel we're not good enough, or our mother told us, you can't do that because blah, blah. Well, that may not be true. That was just a mother speaking, not the world.
yeah.
So just get consensus on what you really are good at.
Yeah, and that was actually where I was leading with the next question, because a lot of us have 101 excuses why we will not do something. So either you're too old, not strong enough, maybe you're the wrong gender for some job that usually men do, or vice versa. Then there's people's like, well, I don't know if I could do that. So it's like 101 things people come up with sometimes, but deep down they do want to maybe try it. So they come up with internal and sometimes external excuses, obstacles. What is one thing you would suggest to that person, in a nutshell, what to do? Like,
I would write it down, and I like this is a thing a trick from Tony Robbins, not a trick, but a process. So you can write down why you think you're not good enough to do what you want to do. So I'm very realistic. I know I can't sing, so I sing in the bathroom, right? So I'm not going to torture people with that, but I know I would like to be do more public speaking, for example. Um, so I might have a belief, for example, that, oh, I might bore people, or I can't hold a room, or I don't know enough, whatever it is. So say that's my negative belief. So I actually did this with workshops. I said, who am I to teach workshops? I've just really become professional in becoming a psychic. What do I know about psychic development? So I wrote down the negative and then I wrote down the positive. Well, I really am passionate about people knowing that they also can trust their intuition. And so you write down the positive belief and then you write down 10 reasons why you believe that. Well, because I've been studying it since I was 14. I'm highly intuitive myself. I've had all these credible experiences. So you're really talking yourself not out of, but into. Because what you were just saying there, Ava, it's like, yeah, I've done that. We talk ourselves out of, oh, I better not, my mother wouldn't like it, or that's for somebody else, or blah, 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 blah. We can do anything we choose if we decide we can do it. And the way we can do it is just doing it and finding out what we don't know so we find out what we need to know. And then we find somebody, if necessary, to teach us that, like I did with my writing teacher. And I could not have done it without her, absolutely not. And if it hadn't been Betty, it could have been somebody else, but I really lucked out. So just talk yourself into things, not out of things. And I want to say, just explore, just have fun. People take themselves very, very seriously. Um, and it's like, oh, this is, if I end this and start this, it's got to be for another 30 years. It's like, no, I'm just going to take a year and try these different things on for size and see if A, I like it first, not whether I'm good at it, but do I like it? Does it make me
Mhm.
feel good? Am I excited to leap out of bed in the morning and go do this thing?
Yeah.
So once you convince yourself you can do it, just make a list of the process and follow your own process.
Yeah, kind of like going back to riding a bicycle. I mean, I didn't just was born and all of a sudden I jumped on the bike and boom, off I went. I had to learn, and then when you
Exactly.
learn, you either like it or you don't. But
And then you
so
make mistakes, you fall off a
yeah,
few
yeah.
times, right?
So yeah, it's you have to learn something and then you either like it or you don't. But then when you want to learn something, you got to be consistent. It's like then going to the gym. You can't expect to get big muscles if you go once and then you stop. You have to be consistent in something. So like your writing, you were consistent, you were learning. It became something you ended up loving doing, and then you now are very good at it. So, it's trying it out, then being consistent with it and mastering it if that's really what drives you, right? So, I think it's really important to see the steps here, get clarity and things like that. So, why is it so important to do work that you actually love? Because what would you say?
Well, this is a good one because my husband talks about not being great in school. And I said, well, were you interested in it? And he said, no, not really, because all he wanted to do was play sports. And he's been brilliant in sports. And I said, well, I would have hated sports, so I would have sucked at sports, but I'm good in school. So, what's your interest level? If it doesn't kind of turn your crank, it's not for you. But if it's interesting, I mean, I love to cook and explore different recipes. A lot of women I know hate cooking. So it's got to grab you, and it just says something about who you are on your soul level. But just because you don't like this doesn't mean you're stupid or you're unintelligent or you're no good at anything. Every single person on this planet is born with gifts. And those gifts speak to us. They're the things that we can be good at. They're the things that we love to do. So everybody's going to have something that they love to do, even if it's lying in bed and watching TV. Are you good at it? Well, I can do that sometimes, and I learn about how to write TV scripts, right? So there's always going to be something that draws you to it. And if you can suspend judgment on yourself about that and just follow that desire, that could lead, that's the way through. And maybe it's not directly to that thing, it might be something beyond that thing, but it's like getting in the right tunnel and keep going down that tunnel until you reach what it is you love. But the clues, the scraps of clues that you left are, does it interest me? Do I love it? Is it exciting? Is it fascinating? Not can I do it or can't I do it? If you've got the interest, you will find the talent for it or the learning for it.
Mm-hmm. But there's also one more thing that I'm sure it's on a lot of people's mind too. Now they went through all that, they did all the, writing down things, but now, how can someone navigate the fear of financial instability when changing careers or starting a new venture? Because it does happen too. It's like, well, I love to do this, but I know the finances are gonna be XYZ. What would you tell them then?
Well, I did this one. So I went from being employed full time, and then my when my fiance died, I couldn't work for a while, so I took some time out, and then I went to part time, and I started my psychic business. So I kind of did it gradually, but then I left the town I was living in where everybody knew me, moved somewhere where nobody knew me, bought a house with a mortgage, and declared, here I am, I'm a psychic in this new community. Well, as you can imagine, I didn't have enough clients in the beginning to really sustain the mortgage or me. So I went out and I went, okay, um, I'm going to go get another job just to tide me over. So you kind of, I went on faith, total faith, knowing that it would work out. And I thought, okay, I'm going to need to supplement the psychic readings with workshops. So I started that and I had this job. And then when the psychic business took off, which didn't take very long, I could dump the part-time job. So, you just do what works. I would have some plan A, plan B, plan C for sure, and have a limit where you say, okay, if I get to this point, I'm going to have to go to plan B, or if I get to this limit, I'm going to have to go to plan C. But I'm a big believer in manifestation, as you know, so I imagined having this level of income, having these clients in my home, doing workshops, doing readings, and making enough money. And yes, it was kind of, I would say, what was your word, uncertain, definitely very uncertain, for a few years. But I kept going, okay, how can I get better at this? How can I do more? How can I? And it wasn't just about the money, but it was about what I was doing. I wanted to share what I knew because I knew it had value. So I think if you have the belief in yourself and what you're doing, and that it's going to add to people the abundance, and you really claim your value. What am I worth? What's my value in this? That will start to show up because you're like attracts like. You're in that frequency of I deserve to make 100 grand a year, whatever it is you want, but that's my value. You're going to attract those people that will bring that to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes it takes time for our mindset to adjust and catch up with something we want to do. And there will be moments where you have doubts and things like that. But I think when you are, positive more than negative, I think will definitely steer you in the right way. So I think mindset here is important, and having, of course, that fallback, it doesn't hurt. And it's actually smart thing to do, right? So I love that. So many golden nuggets. Honestly, I could pick your mind here for another hour because I do have so many more questions. Because you have so much knowledge, and but time's running out slowly. Any last words you want to share with us, or something before we end this session today?
Well, I've got 10 tips, which for changing lanes. So if anybody would like these, they can send me an email, natasha@natasharosewood.com, and I'd be happy to email them. But the thing is, I want to say that everything that is, everything you are seeking is also seeking you. So we're like magnets, and your soul urge is going to come through you at some time or another. So just trust that feeling of, hey, I want to have a restaurant, or I want to be an actress. And just even if you've got nothing going on in that direction at the moment, just begin it. Just begin it.
Take that
And
first.
then let it grow from there.
Yeah. So of course, our podcast, at the end, I always ask the same question, everyone, and I've asked you before, but Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention is the name. So how important do you think it is to set your intentions first thing in the morning for the rest of your day?
Well, I think without intention, we kind of get batted around by life. And I notice that when I set intention, I'm holding space for that positivity to show up, and it's going to be a great day. And as an example, yesterday I set an intention for my husband to have the best birthday ever, and he said that. At the end of the day, it was the best birthday ever.
Oh,
So I
that's
was like,
amazing. Happy
thank you.
birthday to him.
Thank you. So intention works.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us here once again, Natasha. And we do have something coming up for you guys. It's different than a podcast. So follow us to find out what it's gonna be. It's gonna be probably at the end of July, so really exciting news. But till then, I hope everyone has a beautiful day, and thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ada.
You're welcome. Bye bye.